So, Wade, recently the World Economic Forum came together and they talked a lot about AI. And one of the things I found very interesting is they're saying that with AI, that's going to save us a lot of work time. I actually read an article from last summer that talked about the average person is going to save 12 hours a week. So I got to thinking, and I thought, with the power of free will, we each get to decide what we're going to do with that extra time. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think that free will understanding, the fact that it's a choice is such a big deal to realize you always have a choice with everything you do in life. And this is no different. Um, the point of that article and the point of the things that we hear about AI are that it should take over a number of jobs. Maybe new ones will be created, but possibly it's going to take over more jobs than need to be created, which would result in me and you and everyone else having a greater amount of time on our hands. And the key is the choice and how we choose to fill it. And if you look back to the COVID era, you can have lots of stories of people that didn't fill it in wise ways, that, spend it drinking or whatever, just doing things that weren't beneficial for themselves or others. But you also hear stories of people that did, that transformed, weight loss or learned new skills, new hobbies, started businesses, lots of different things as well. So the same thing, we're going to have more time in the future in all likelihood. And the key is how are we going to choose to use it? And as I just laid out there, there's different points on the spectrum you can go. But what is it that's going to cause you to choose to use that time in a beneficial way, a way that's beneficial for yourself and beneficial for others? And I have some thoughts on that I'll share. What do you have? Any thoughts on that, Cynthia?
Well, I think the key is creativity. Creativity and creating, using free will to create the life of your dreams. Like I did that during the pandemic. I live alone. So during like some of those those years, I was all alone for a long period of time. I had a virtual life, but I said, okay, I can sit here and feel sorry for myself, or I can make choices, and I embrace the choices. How am I going to be creative? Of course, I walked every day and exercised, and I, ate healthy, but I did things that I didn't ordinarily do. So I used my creativity to create the life of my dreams, and I was happy during the.
Uh,
And I know a lot, as you already discussed, a lot of people, alcohol consumption went up, and people were feeling isolated and lonely and feeling sorry for themselves. But I think if you use the innate creativity that we all have, you have the ability to have the life of your dreams, and that extra 12 hours, if it's 12 hours, you can spend it on self-care, on creating the life that you want to see.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful lesson. And, the realization is you create your reality, as we've talked about. And so, one big realization from what you just described is the fact that everything comes from the inside. Your context, your setting, whatever you're experiencing, hard to say and really believe and grasp, but it's really kind of irrelevant to your personal happiness and joy. Elie Wiesel wrote a book. He was in a concentration camp and he developed an ability to stay happy and joyous despite being in those circumstances. So whatever you and I are complaining about in our lives, we just you realize the ability to do that exists in humanity. Like what he did is no different than what we're capable of doing. And that's a light bulb moment. And so you have the ability, regardless of the situation, to find joy, to create happiness. And I would say the reason for that is that your natural state is one of joy. If you truly get to know yourself and get down to that level, you're not dependent upon external needs or this or that. It's a state of joy. And as you talked about, when you are in that state, you want to share it, you want to create, you want to give it to others in a way so that it goes around. What goes around comes around. So these ideas about how to make yourself better in these situations are of utmost importance. And I think a big key to think about is your intention. Like, as you talked about, you foresaw, I want to create the best life possible. Who doesn't want that? When I talk to my students, and I say, why are you sitting in this room? Why are you sitting in my class? The answer they give is, I need this class to graduate. It's a requirement. Like, okay, why do you want to graduate? Why do you want a piece of paper? And like, well, I want to get a job. Okay, so now you're sitting in this class because you want a job. Why do you want a job? If you keep asking why, eventually you'll get to the source. And the reason they want a job, if you ultimately trace it back, is so they can make money. Some people stop there, but money is just a placeholder for what? For a happy life, for enjoying your life experience. That's what everyone wants. That's what people want today. That's what people wanted back when Plato was around. That's what every human being has wanted throughout history. Okay. Well, guess what? There are ways of actually achieving that. And they are about relying on these wisdom traditions that you and I talk about and integrating that with AI now in order to make a better future. But these are things that you just have to choose to want to accomplish and then set off in that direction rather than trying to just bury yourself in misery or hide or be scared or isolated. It's all a choice. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity that's going to be presented to us in the future. And I think we should embrace it wholeheartedly and really focus on, what do we want to bring into our world to make it better and make it better for everyone else.
Well, when I think of free will, the best example I can think of is Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, he spent, I don't know, some ridiculous amount, like 25, 26 years in prison. And he made a choice using his free will to use that time productively, to not fill his heart and mind with hate, even though he was wrongfully in prison. And so he made a choice each and every day. And so I think the point there is, irregardless of your circumstances, you can use your free will to make choices, to be happy, to let go of hate, to let go of anger, and really live, like you said, from a place of happiness and joy. So, as we are getting more time back in our life and not working so much, I really highly recommend people use that time for self care. And I have a message that self care is not selfish. It's really important to take care of yourself holistically, mind, body, and spirit, whatever that looks like to you.
Yeah, I think that's vital. And both the examples you and I have shared demonstrate what I would call exemplars. The realization that these human beings are no different than me and you, okay? And look at the circumstances they're in and look at what they accomplished. Look at how they handled that. Now, apply that to yourself and realize you're no different. You have that same capability within yourself, and your circumstances are probably a lot less worse than what we just talked about with Nelson Mandela or Elie Wiesel, in the concentration camp. They did it, and so can you. And that's kind of the key lesson to learn, which allows you to come from a place of growth. And Plato, just to go back to my philosophical kind of heritage, says that the meaning of life is education. To educate yourself about how to live a good life. Educate yourself about yourself. Know thyself. That's the key phrase in the Greek tradition, and that involves going through different layers of how you've developed over time and who are you at your core, that essence. And as I already stated, at your core, at that essence, truly your natural state is one of joy. It's one of a flourishing type of being. And that's something you can tap into if want to work on it and then share that with others in that creative way that you mentioned. I think it's brilliant.
But I think one of the keys here is when we move forward and AI is creating that new space for us, what we need to do is be open to change and really kind of close the door on life as we knew it before, just like we had to do during the pandemic. The lives were never the same for everybody. I don't care how much money you had, I don't care how much education you had. And so now, instead of being afraid of AI and running away from it, let's embrace the good parts of it. And one of the good parts of it is we will have more time in our life, and start thinking now how we can use that time in a positive way.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's a wonderful approach. And hopefully you guys pay attention, and start to develop, think ahead long term about what you want to do and what you want your life to look like, and then start taking steps to make that a reality.
Use your free will.
Yes.